Hey everyone, it's Pastor Bob, and I want to thank you for joining me on this special edition of Real Life Church Online. Now, this Sunday, we're going to be starting a brand new teaching series, If Money Talked. Each Wednesday, I'm going to come out with a short video kind of highlighting some of our discussion points. I know people get really nervous when we start talking about money, and I'm glad you're listening, and I hope it'll be worth your time to keep on coming back over the next few weeks. In our series, we're just not going to talk about money. We're going to let our money do the talking. I know that sounds weird, but we're just going to kind of flip the script. You see, it is true. We are usually the ones that tell our money what we want it to do. Buy me some groceries, pay the mortgage, go into savings. But what if instead we allowed our money to talk to us? What if we invited our money to pull up a chair right next to us and give us some advice? What would our money say if it could talk? Now, the truth is, we probably would rather not hear from our money. We already know what it might say to us. It might even sound like a disappointed parent. You know, I'm not really mad, but I'm just disappointed. I would expect, and you would expect, if our money could talk, we would expect it to have some pretty good common sense. Did you get it? Kind of a pun? Never mind. We would expect our money to pretty much say what a good financial planner would say, or maybe an accountant would say, or better yet, maybe one of those wise parents. But maybe it will surprise you a little bit. If our money could talk, maybe it would just actually say what Jesus did say about money 2,000 years ago. Now, if you've grown up around church, you already know this, that Jesus talked a lot about money, more than just about everything else. In fact, he talked more about money than he did heaven. Not because he needed money. In fact, to the best of our knowledge, Jesus never asked for money. He wasn't after people's money at all. He was after something else, something much bigger than their money. And we'll talk about that here in a couple weeks. Now, before we get the first thing that money would say, if it could talk, I want to ask you a question. Now, it's going to be a strange question, but it is a question I want you to answer. What do you do with your spare money? Not your spare change, your extra dollars. You know, the spare ones that you really just don't need. No, it's not a trick question. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Bob, who has spare dollars laying around? Maybe you got some spare dollars for a good cause here and there, but I don't have any extra money, and I certainly don't have any extra money laying around. Technically, that's probably true. We don't have extra money just laying around, but we do have extra. Now, come along with me here. Have you ever been on a vacation? I mean, has anyone taken a vacation in the last couple of years? I'm taking a vacation. I'm taking the month of July and going to see some friends. Do you have a car? Maybe you have more than one car. Do your kids have a car? Does your car have its own little house? Have you ever driven a perfectly good car to a car lot and then drove away in another perfectly good car, but a newer model? See, did you use some of that extra money to make that purchase? Or how about this one? I know this is true of me. Have you ever went to purchase your current cell phone? Did you walk into the store with a perfectly good cell phone in your pocket? See, we are people who have extra, and we don't usually wait for things to break. We upgrade. We trade things in. Oh, now don't raise your hands on this one, but have you ever gone into a kitchen with some countertops, a microwave, an oven, and a refrigerator, and you rip it all out, and then you use some of that spare extra money to replace it, well, with brand new countertops, a refrigerator, a microwave, and an oven. Some of us have so much spare money that we actually pay someone else to keep track of it for us. It's someone else's job to take care of your money and invest it so it turns even into some more extra money. Now, maybe when we start talking about money that way, maybe we all do have some extra money, but we just don't feel like it. And the reason you don't feel like it, well, it's a word that we don't talk much about. It's the G word. It's called greed. And greed's hard to see in your own mirror, but it's easy to see greed in someone else's mirror. In all my time of helping people develop budgets, you know what? I've never had someone come in and tell me, you know what, Bob? I'm greedy. I've had people come in and tell me that they're careful with their money. I've had people say that they're good money managers, that they're great savers. Again, it's difficult to see greed in your own mirror. So maybe a definition of the word greed would help us all. This is how I want to define it. Greed is the assumption that my money is for all my consumption. You see, you can be poor and be greedy. You can be rich and be greedy, because greedy really has nothing to do with the amount of money you have. It's the assumption about money that your dollars all belong to you, and those dollars become a brand new house, a brand new car. We consume, or maybe some of you out there are the opposite. You don't spend that extra money. We call that hoarding. Oh, no, we don't call it hoarding. We call it savings. That's right. But it's the same assumption, right? It's the same assumption that drives people to spend as it is to save. Because it's all for you. Your money is all for you, after all, isn't it? It's the same habit, by the way. It's the assumption for consumption. It's either now or later. I like that, the consumption for assumption. Go ahead and say that really fast a few times in a row. Now, most of us are guilty, okay? And we don't have a whole lot of spare money around, because we either consume it or we spend it, we upgrade it, we stash it away in a 401k to consume later, but it's all about me. It's either about me now or it's about me later. Now, here's the issue with all of this. This is where I'm kind of going this next week. Jesus points out that this assumption is completely different than what he would say about money, and if money could speak, what money would say. And let me tell you something. If we would take what money would say and what Jesus would say, it could lead to a completely different paradigm. It could lead to a completely different freedom. And by the way, ultimately, satisfaction. This is what Jesus said, okay? What he said is, watch out, all right? Watch out, be on guard for all kinds of greed. There's that word greed. It's that consumption assumption, spending it all, saving it all, assuming that everything is all for us. Now hold on for just a second, because this is what he says. He says, this life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. In other words, life is more than just stuff. It's more than possessions. Let me tell you something. Time is going to run out on you before your possessions run out on you. All of us have a lot of stuff, and we're going to run out of time before we use all that stuff. And let me say this. When we die, we're going to have a lot of stuff left over. Stuff somebody else is going to go through, they're going to pick through, they're going to sell. And you know what? Don't let this offend you. Perhaps they might just throw some of that stuff away. You see, if life consisted of possessions, we would run out of life the moment we ran out of possessions. And we simply know that's not the case. But it's easy to fall in the trap of life and accumulating more and more and more. And Jesus points out something our money might say, if money could talk. And if money could talk, it would say this: I can add meaning to your life, but I'm not the meaning of life. That's what money would want to say to us. I could add meaning to your life, but I'm not the meaning of life. See, money is meant to be a tool, and it's meant for us to use to do something meaningful in life, and it has the potential to change your life. Now, just imagine for just a second, if we had a different reference point for our finances, spending, saving, and we saw money more as a way of making our life meaningful. Every time we had some extra dollars, every time we had some spare money, instead of just spending or saving, we would use it to make life more meaningful. If we began to think that way, and especially if we had that in practice in our life, especially over the last 10 years of your life and doing finances, you might have a whole lot less stuff. You might have a whole lot less debt. You might have a little bit more margin of life to live with. And you'd probably have some significant savings that you could use. And your financial decisions, well, they would be a whole lot different. We have to change this idea that all of my money is for consumption. I call it the consumption assumption. So on Sunday morning, we're going to be discussing this assumption that we ought to carry forward. We're going to listen to what money might say as it matches up with what Jesus did say. Now, I know maybe you're feeling a little bit of tension right now. You feel like this isn't going to be the series that you're really looking forward to. Let me tell you something. Ask God to speak to your heart in this area. I'm asking him to speak to my heart. I'm not so much a consume guy. I'm more of a save guy. But aren't I saving just for me? So I'm asking God to speak to my heart. So I want to invite you back on Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, 10:30, and 12 o'clock in Spanish for our first round, If Money Talked. What would it say to you? Now, you guys have a great last half of the week. Matter of fact, why don't you share this video with your friends? And I would appreciate that if you would, because what we're talking about, I think whether you're Christian or non-Christian, God has something in store for all of us. All right? Catch you guys later.